And I want to follow up on what Mr. Desaunier was talking about. And Mr. Ash, I got to ask you, the Fish and Wildlife Service relies on science and data to make these decisions?
We do.
And who pays for the science and data?
Science can come from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. It can come from the United States Geological Survey. It can come from the Corps of Engineers, so the taxpayer pays for a lot. It can come from states.
But ultimately, it's all paid for by taxpayers, correct?
Not all of it. Much of it comes from industry. So we rely on industry in many respects for science. We rely on NGOs for science.
And does the Fish and Wildlife Service do all these studies in science themselves, or you rely on contractors and, as you said, industry as well?
All of the above.
Is all of that science and data released to the public?
All of the science that we use in making our decisions is available to the public.
When? Like when in the process do you make that science and data available to the public?
It's constantly available. So with the greater sage grouse, for instance, we had a website for the greater sage grouse, and as information was made available to us, we posted it on our website.
Do you make the raw data available?
If the raw data is available to us, we provide it. But sometimes, like in the case of, say, the state of Texas, they have constitutional restrictions against providing the source data because of private property concerns and other things. So they provide us with the peer-reviewed science.
But anything that you generate, you believe is available to the public and the scientists prior to you making a recommendation on a rule? Or?
We do, yes.
All of it?
All of it.
Let me ask you about the move to push the Mexican wolf outside of its previous habitats, its historic range, if you will. Do you anticipate that the geographic area being different for that historic range for the Mexican wolf? You published,
I'm not following.
Fish and Wildlife Service has this map here, and it shows the historic range for the Mexican wolf. It doesn't include Utah. To be right to the point, we're scared to death that you're going to push forward a rule that says we're going to make the Mexican wolf and push it up into Utah. Is that the goal? Is that the intention?
No. In fact, our current 10J rule for Mexican wolf says that if wolves go north of I-40, that we will capture them.
I-40 in Arizona?
I-40 in Arizona and New Mexico.
Yes. In New Mexico. Do you believe you have the authority to reestablish a species outside their historical range?
Historical range is a concept that reasonable people will disagree upon. So range is what's important as we think about recovering a species, and what we need to know is what is the kind of habitat within which we can accomplish recovery. And so we look at range, and historical range is important context for all of our decisions, but what's important in thinking about recovery is where can the species exist, and where do the habitat conditions exist. And so that's what is relevant to us as we build a recovery plan for a species like Mexican wolf.
So it's your goal and intention that any Mexican wolf that goes north of I-40, you will recapture and bring back to where?
South of I-40 to the recovery zone, and that is the current rule and the current practice that we're following while we work with the states of New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, and Utah on a recovery plan. We've agreed with the 4 states that in building that recovery plan, we will start first with a habitat analysis, looking at Mexico and southern Arizona and New Mexico, what you call historical range, and that we will look at the habitat and determine if that habitat can support recovery. If it can, then we will give that a chance to work with Mexico and in southern New Mexico.
I just want to be crystal
clear
clear that you have no intention of trying to push the Mexican wolf up into Utah, because based on figure 1.1 in the documents you have, there is no Utah on this map, and I want to make sure that's still the case. Madam Chair, thank you, and I yield back.
Thanks, sir.
I thank the gentleman.